Hello and welcome back to the Aquapod, the Scottish swimming podcast. On this week's episode, I speak to Paralympic champion Faye Rogers after an 18 months that's seen her become a multi-world championship medalist, European and world record holder, and a Paralympic gold medalist. We speak about the challenges post-Paralympics, her amazing experience in Paris, and what is to come next. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. So I'm delighted to be joined today by Paralympic gold medalist and multiple world championship medalist Faye Rogers. Thanks for coming on to the podcast, Faye.
Thank you for having me.
So I guess just first of all, how have things been after what's been a really busy year, an amazing summer as well for you? How have you kind of settled back into normal life, I guess, after such an amazing kind of experience?
Yeah, it's been really tough actually. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be coming back from Paris. Kind of spent all my time in the run up to Paris worrying about, the racing and actually what I was going to do while I was there. I didn't really think about kind of what would happen when I got back. And don't get me wrong, everything's been incredible. I've had so many cool things that I've got to do and meet really, really amazing people and stuff. But I think coming back in and not getting much of a break before I had to go back to uni was tough. I think kind of taking a break from swimming but not having the break from uni was also hard, because I think I didn't realize until now that I actually use my swimming a lot with kind of my scheduling. It gives me a routine, and I actually do significantly less uni work when I'm not swimming. So that's been a bit tough. But I'm back to training now, which has definitely been helpful with the routine. And I think it's been hard kind of balancing a lot of the kind of commitments and stuff that have come out of Paris. There's so many cool things and I don't want to turn anything down, but sometimes you've kind of got to, because there's just not enough time in the day and with uni and especially now I'm back training as well. But I'm definitely getting there with that. And obviously it was my first games and I'm very new to it. So it's always going to be a learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great to hear you speak kind of honestly and open about that. And it's actually something that a lot of athletes talk about. You've probably heard of it before, and it's good to kind of just discuss that. And I guess it is just that routine. You've had that focus for months or well over a year in your case, and it's just that adjustment back into kind of reality after it. You've kind of reached that goal and it becomes difficult after that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think being so focused on one thing, and in my case it was I really wanted that gold medal. I was so focused on it, and then it kind of drives everything you do. Subconsciously it was all that I thought about for months and months and months, and coming back it's okay, well, what do I do now? What are my goals? And figuring that out was sort of difficult, but also it's fun to kind of have the freedom to think what do I want to do next? What can we achieve next? Where can we go next? And there were kind of sort of fun conversations to be having with my coach Patrick. And I think that it's the hardest part has definitely been settling back in without much of a break. I think with the Paralympics being just that bit later in the year has made it a bit difficult. But so I'm looking forward to kind of Christmas time when I get a proper break from uni. But we're nearly there. And I think it is really common. I think a lot of athletes kind of suffer with the whole post-games blues situation. And but I think that there's a lot of positives to come out of it as well, sort of that feeling of I feel a bit lost, I don't really know where my focus is. And I've kind of tried to look at that as more of a positive of you now have the opportunity to set a new focus. You can choose what that's got to be. You can kind of go anywhere you want in any direction you want with this at this point. So I was trying to kind of view it as a positive rather than I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing, sort of, because that can be quite stressful. But I think it helps when you're happy with your performance as well. I think coming out of Paris, obviously I'm thrilled with my medal and I'm I gave it my all, and I'm happy with sort of what I was able to achieve. But I think that would obviously be 10 times harder if I wasn't happy about that. And I was super conscious of that going into the games, about how hard it would be afterwards if I kind of didn't do what I wanted to do, which kind of amplified the nerves, I think. So I'm I've been quite lucky in that respect.
Yeah, I guess it's good that you can reflect on it in a positive light as well. It's not, it's a difficult situation to be in, weirdly, but also it's one with lots of opportunities and things as well, isn't it? And for you, it's been quite a kind of whirlwind sort of 18 months to 2 years, isn't it? We've spoken before about kind of your route to getting classified, and people might have heard the story that they might not have. I don't know if you want to give just a kind of brief overview of that. I know you've spoken kind of at length of it before, but just for a bit of context. But really, you got that classification only last year, and then going into kind of world champs was your first international experience, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I've kind of swum all my life, been involved in competitive swimming since I was like 9. But I had a car accident in 2021. September 2021, actually, exactly 3 years before Paris. And I badly damaged my arm in, short summary. And I was told that I'd never be able to swim again. So my arm just doesn't work in the same way that it used to. And that was really hard to hear, because I think I love my swimming. I love competing. And I wanted to keep going with it. I was very into it. And so being told, you're definitely never going to compete again, and if you are able to swim again, it's going to be kind of very low level, very, paddling about, rather than like what sort of I would define as like, swimming for me. And that was really, really hard. But I kind of decided like I was going to prove more to myself than anyone else, but just prove that I could do it. I didn't really know what it was going to look like at that point. I think in my head, I was adamant that I was going to get back to where I was before my accident. And I kind of quickly realized that wasn't going to be possible. Like, my arm wasn't going to get better. I think going into it, I thought, I'll make it get better. Like, I will make it work. And that's not really how it works. But I did get back into swimming, obviously. And someone came up to me and said, you're doing amazingly, but your stroke is obviously affected by your impairment. Have you thought about para swimming? And I was kind of like, that's a really good idea, because at that point I was kind of looking to start competing, but I was getting disqualified for not having symmetrical arms and not touching the wall properly with 2 hands, and kind of things that I couldn't really control anymore, and that was getting a bit frustrating. So to kind of hear that there was an option where that wouldn't be happening all the time was exciting, because I just wanted to race up getting disqualified. So I looked into it. I spoke to my coach about it, and then kind of, to be honest, Patrick was great. He kind of did all the legwork. Like, he contacted all the right people, and we got that classification. So I got my national classification in October of 22, so just gone a year after my accident. And I would say it kind of spiraled from that point. Like, from that day, it was kind of immediately like, okay, so many people were contacting me, like, we need to get you internationally classified. Like, this is so exciting. Everyone was so positive about it. And I was like, whoa, you know?
Yeah.
And I hadn't really, I wanted to do para swimming because I wanted to compete, because I love competing. I'm a really competitive person. And like, I hadn't, necessarily really looked at like sort of how good I would be, where I would be ranked, like all them, like that. I hadn't really considered any of that. And it was only when I did my first competition as a classified para athlete, which was Bucks short course champs in 2022. And I think I did 3 races and broke 3 British records, and I had no idea. People were telling me that I'd broken them, and I was like, wow, okay. So that was so exciting. It was crazy. So yeah, it kind of just spiraled from there. And at that point, I kind of started thinking, okay, well, maybe I can take this further. Like, maybe this is something that I can do. So yeah, I did my international classification in March of 2023. It sometimes takes a while for the paperwork to go through, so that was kind of the earliest opportunity. But that meet was actually like, it was the World Series in Sheffield, but that was being used as the trials. Yeah. And I knew that, I think, like, just from other athletes. Like, at this point, I was training with Tony Shaw, who's been brilliant my whole journey, and genuinely would not be here without her. But she was stressing about, qualifying for Worlds. Obviously, I pick up on that, and I was kind of like, okay, I wonder if, can I do that? Like, is that something that I can do? And genuinely, we were on the train to Sheffield from Aberdeen, and she said, well, you know that there's times you have to hit. And we looked at them, and like that was the first time I'd seen these times. So we were literally on the way there. And I was like, okay. So I had a look at them and I was like, I think I can get that 100 fly one. Like I looked at it, I was like, yeah, like, okay, I'm going for that. And so I did my classification. I got classified, and then the next day I was racing. And then yeah, so I think I'd raced like 3 days, and then on the last day was this 100 fly. And like I'd raced well the whole meet, like it was okay. I was happy with how I was racing, and I went in and I think I got the time by like 2.5 seconds. Like it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually went and won the World Series, which was like my first international medal, which was actually crazy because it was my first international competition, and
Yeah.
like a day and a half after I'd been classified. So it was like it was just such a whirlwind. Yeah, that whole weekend was crazy. I mean, I had my first drugs test, like again, not something I'd ever experienced before and not really been prepared for because I, never been at that level. And so very much thrown in at the deep end, but also was so much fun. Enjoyed the whole experience. And yeah, then I got selected for Worlds, which was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, a few months later, I went to Worlds, and that was sort of my first major international. So yeah, it's been a bit crazy.
I mean, yeah, that's it's quite a kind of I guess it's an unusual rise to like get to the World Championships where you maybe just from being so new to the kind of para side of the sport, you weren't familiar with the classifications and the times and even the meets and stuff like that. Do you think that almost helped you? Like kind of you almost didn't have that pressure on you at that moment anyway, going in at the World Champs where you obviously you won multiple medals, including that kind of 100 fly gold in the S10 category. Did that kind of help you get there? And then obviously the nerves kind of start to kick in once you're at that stage, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, I honestly just, it was all so new, and I was learning so much about it every single day, and I was like, I didn't know any of my competitors. I didn't know really anything at all. I still didn't understand the classification system, to be honest. And I was just like, okay, I'm here, like I'm just gonna swim, and there was no pressure. I was so new, and like I was just kind of like, okay, like I'm here, like let's just swim. And I think my energy was kind of channeled into worrying about different things that like wasn't racing, because there was so much going on, and I think that helped being that distracted. Because I mean, that was the best meet of my life. I've never swum better than that. I think I PB'd every time I was in the pool. And I did, so many races. I think I did 12 races, including like
it was a lot.
Days, and yeah. But like, and I PB'd every time I swam. Like it was just faster and faster and faster, and I built into the meet so well. And yeah, I do think that kind of, I didn't really have time to get nervous. I didn't really have time to worry about it and, overthink it and kind of put that pressure on myself. And so I do think that massively helped. I think if I compare that to Paris, I was significantly more nervous at Paris, which I think is normal for a game situation. But I think that, I do think I could have swum better in Paris if I hadn't have had that, like, like the stress and the nerves and like the worrying, because you use a lot of energy being nervous. So I think yeah, I do think that it helped being so like distracted, I guess, going in. And it's definitely something to think about for the future, actually, kind of sort of managing them nerves a bit better, because it definitely helped.
Yeah, and people talk about the first games experience, whether it's the Paralympics or the Olympics, that it's just such a different kind of pressure that you especially in a sport like swimming, where quite often the meets, we know what they're like. There's maybe not too much of a crowd. There's pressure, but it's pressure around about wanting to hit times and things. It's not really like, oh, there's 10,000 people watching me, or there's a billion people watching Olympic or Paralympic coverage at home. So I guess kind of moving on to this year, where you mentioned the Paralympics and things. What's that been like, and what was the kind of experience of the games maybe before you started competing?
I think the biggest thing that I was kind of worried about is the crowd, like you mentioned, and like we're not used to having a huge crowd at like swim meets in the UK, and so to kind of go out in front of upwards of 12,000 people and kind of see that when you're walking out. I was worried that I was gonna kind of walk out and just panic and want to run away.
Yeah.
I didn't. I actually really enjoyed it, and I think you hear a lot of athletes talking about how much the crowd helps, and I kind of always thought, I'm not sure it does. Like, I mean, you can't hear them in the pool, like it's sort of, but it really, really does. Like genuinely, it does help. It really makes all the difference. So, I actually really enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed kind of the crowd and that side. I think the bit I found really hard was kind of having sort of my day, the way my races were spread out. I would race a day, have a day off, race a day, have a day off, and like kind of follow that pattern. And it meant I had to be switched on a lot of like for a long time. It's kind of I raced over like sort of 7 days, and being like, you know, alert and like switched on and like sort of thinking about racing for that length of time was hard, because I think the sort of the day before you race, like you're not really switched off. You're really focused, and kind of having to hold that focus for that length of time, I really struggled with. I think it kind of showed towards the end of the meet, but again, that's like stuff to work on. And if I came out of it and said, you know, well, that was perfect, nothing could have gone better, that's like, where do we go from here? So it is good to have things to work on. And I think overall, like the village was incredible. I wasn't really sure what to expect with that, but like it was amazing. And again, the team Paralympics GB were amazing. The team atmosphere was just something else, you know. And yeah, I mean, obviously within the swimmers we've got great kind of camaraderie, but even like wider Paralympics GB, it was lovely. Yeah, I think I just didn't really know what to expect going in, but yeah, it was just the most amazing experience. And I raced kind of on the last day, so I didn't really have that much time afterwards to kind of soak it all in and enjoy it, which I'm kind of sad about, because like I just kind of, the whole time I was there, I was obviously a bit nervous, a bit like, you know, focused on racing, and but it was incredible, and the closing ceremony, getting to go to that was amazing as well.
Yeah, I guess it's just a case of kind of when you're there, you're so focused on it, aren't you? And you get blinkered, and you can't really think about how amazing the experience is. But it's nice to hear you kind of look back on that fondly, and I'm sure you will do over the years to come, and hopefully with, you know, international competitions to come as well. I wonder if you want to maybe just take us through the kind of day of your gold medal. Obviously, I guess you would describe it as your strongest event, the kind of 100 fly, European record holder, and world champion coming into this. So I guess there might have been some pressure on you, maybe from yourself, maybe you thought from outside as well. But how did that day feel, and how did it progress from kind of heats into finals as well?
I think so. Most of the pressure came from myself. I mean, I guess there is the expectation that, like, you know, like that's your strongest event, like, but I didn't really focus on that. Like that wasn't really relevant to me. I was more bothered, like I wanted to win, like, and I was putting that pressure on myself. But I think going into it, like the heats, I was incredibly nervous. I think I knew that I was kind of in a really good position. Like I mean, on paper, I was the fastest entry, but also was very aware that there's some really, really amazing girls in my class. And like there'd been some incredible swimming this year, and some big progressions from people. So I was kind of in a stretch. I had no idea what people were going to do, you know, anything could have happened. And I think I was going into the heats, I was like, you know, what if, like, you know, 5 people come out from nowhere and, you know, drop a second and beat me? And it was like, and then that was so could have happened, you know. So, but in the heats, I was just kind of like, look, it doesn't matter. You've just got to make the final. You've just got to make the final. That's what I kept telling myself. Like, it's fine. Like, you've just got to make the final. And I think kind of when I came out of the heat, and I was happy with the time I did, and I was going into the final fastest, and, you know, everyone kind of swam where I kind of expected them to. There was no surprises. I was like, okay, that's good. Like, I kind of took a bit of confidence from that. I was like, right, you know, obviously there is still someone could have, you know, come out from nowhere in the final, but it did settle my nerves a little bit, kind of knowing like, okay, like, you know, it's okay, like at least you're in lane 4, like, sort of thing. So I tried to kind of use that to settle myself, but I think no matter what, like, I was going to be nervous, like I was going to be worked up. And so yeah, after the heats, like I got away from the pool as quickly as I can. I swam down and got away and got some food, and I just had a nap. I was like, because if I'm asleep, I can't be stressing. So yeah, I just went to sleep. And then, yeah, I kind of I was trying to keep my timeline in the run up to my race as tight as possible, because like the more I'm like busy doing stuff, the less time I have to kind of like stress about the race. And I think that it was actually quite hard planning, because you've got to plan your timeline, which is fine, and that's pretty standard for most meets. I kind of follow the same sort of timeline, but this was different because we had the bus to contend with, the bus getting to the venue from the village, and it was kind of like some bus journeys took 40 minutes, but some of them were taking up to an hour, and it was like, oh, I don't want to give myself 40 minutes and then the bus be late, and then or the bus get lost, or that, so it's kind of like, do I allow an hour? And then there was some buses that, I mean, I'd not been on one, thankfully, but I know there was people whose buses were like severely delayed, and I was like, oh, do I allow like more than that? But then I'm going to be sitting around at the venue, and so that was a bit stressful planning that, but it worked out really well. So for me anyway, I got there on time and just kind of worked through my kind of like pre-race routine. Did my pre-pull, did my warm-up, put my suit on, did some priming, went to the call room, and that's kind of literally all I did. I think I was trying to keep it as simple as possible, like not overcomplicate things, because I was just trying to stay calm. That was the main focus of the day. And in the call room, I was super, super nervous. And also I think like I knew that there was some really fast girls, and we were all kind of sat in the call room like looking at each other like, oh gosh, like but also when I think about it now, like that feeling's actually like, as much as like it's nerves, and it's like it's one of the best feelings because there's so much adrenaline there as well, like and I have like a race playlist and certain songs that, but like now if that song kind of comes on when I'm in the car or whatever, I'm like, it makes me really happy because that was the song I was listening to, and it makes me kind of think about that feeling. And it's actually I reflect on it in a positive way, which is weird because at the time it's like I just want this to be over, like so it is a weird one, but yeah, I think walking out to the blocks was an experience in itself, because being in lane 4, like being the favorite going into the final, and then like when the crowd's cheering, and there was no French athletes in that race, so when the crowd was cheering, like it did very much feel like they're cheering for us, they're cheering for me. This is really like, it was cool. And but yeah, I was trying to just focus on that rather than the race, because like, I mean, I've done that many 100 flies, like I knew what I was doing, like we know that I can get in and race fast. It was just the biggest sort of hindrance was going to be if I got in my own head too much. So I was just kind of like, look, the race is second nature. Like there's nothing you can do now. The race is going to be what it is. It'll take care of itself. Got to trust my training. And so I was kind of just trying to focus on the other bits that could help, and so I was kind of just focused on that. And when I kind of finished the race, that was, I was in disbelief. And every time I do this, every time I do something really cool, I don't believe it for like a good 5 minutes. like at Worlds, I always, like the entire time I just looked like a deer in headlights, because I was just like, wait, is that real? Like, has that just happened?
I know. I remember like, because I was obviously in Manchester, and I remember kind of interviewing you after like every race or whatever, and you would go, I can't believe it. It's amazing. It's just like it was just such a kind of surreal experience for you. And I guess like Paris would have just been that times 10,
Yeah, it really was. Like, and I was kind of like looking for something to go wrong. Like you've touched the wall, you've looked at the scoreboard, you've won.
Yeah.
But then you're like, wait, could I have been DQ'd? Like, and then like, you'll see at the end of every race, I'll check my hat still on my head. Because like, you can get DQ'd if your hat comes off and you've got the wrong hat on underneath, or what, all that, like all that sort of thing. You're like, oh wait, could have that gone wrong? Like you're just looking for stuff to go wrong because you just don't believe it, like because it's that good, like you're that excited. And even getting out the pool, I was like, wait, so did I win? Like, and it was like it is the most incredible feeling. And kind of like when you do finally like accept, when they're putting a medal around your neck and you're like, okay, no one can take this from me. Like this is, it is just the most amazing feeling.
No, that's superb. And yeah, I guess once you finally got that gold medal, was it just relief, or were you able to kind of enjoy that moment as well?
I think at first relief was the biggest like emotion. But like I said, you've been so focused on it, so then when you've kind of finally done it, it's just like such a huge relief. But by the time I got on the podium, I was just so excited, and I could see my family, and like there was just so many emotions. Like my brain was going at like a million miles an hour. Like I was like, and I was desperately trying to take it all in, but like, you know, there was just so many things going through my mind, and um it is really the best experience ever, like being stood there, and yeah, I just wish I could do it again. Like it was amazing. But yeah, I now honestly it was just excitement, I think, was sort of the next thing after relief. And like now I'm just really grateful for, like, you know, the opportunities, and obviously something, you know, quite bad happened, and I'm just really grateful that I've had the opportunity to make that kind of something quite special. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you mentioned kind of briefly earlier on about some of the experiences you've had. I saw you last week, photos with the King and, you know, things like that as well. How has that been? Has it been a little bit overwhelming, or have you been able to kind of enjoy those experiences as well?
I would say the volume of stuff has been a bit overwhelming, in the sense of like kind of balancing it with uni and, like, you know, organizing it all, because a lot of things kind of come all at the same time, and it's like, oh, I can't be in 4 places at once. But
Yeah,
I've loved every second of it, you know. Like I've got, you know, got invited to the Scotland Fiji rugby game and got to go on the pitch. That was insanely cool. You know, meeting the King was incredible, and just something I never thought I'd get to do. And there's been, like, you know, countless other things as well that are just so much fun. And again, I'm just trying to enjoy every minute of it. And like I like being busy, to be honest. I thrive when I've got more stuff on, and as much as like I do have moments where I'm like, I've got so much on, like I don't know how I'm going to balance this, but I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest. So yeah.
That's awesome. And yeah, I guess just lastly, you've now, you know, that's out the way, that goal's been ticked off. What's next for you? You know, there's World Champs next year, there's a Commonwealth Games being announced in 2 years. Obviously, we don't know quite about the para involvement, but, you know, really great opportunities for you potentially, for both of those.
Yeah, I mean, I think my next big aim is definitely going to be World Championships. Hopefully get selected for that, and defend that world title, hopefully. I really want to break that 65 mark in my 100 fly. That's like my next big, like, you know, goal. And that'll be really, really cool. I mean, my PB at the minute is a 65.4, so got a little way to go, but I think it's definitely doable. Yeah, I mean, in the long run, I'd love to get that 100 fly world record, but that is going to be a big ask. So that's kind of the long-term goal. But yeah, and then again, Commonwealth Games, I think home games for Scotland is so exciting, and like I would love to kind of compete for Scotland and kind of get that experience, you know, home games, home crowd, whatever. But yeah, like I think the fact that it's in Glasgow kind of makes it so much more special. Like I was already excited about, you know, getting to do a Commonwealth Games, hopefully, and, you know, compete for Scotland. But the fact that it's now, you know, going to be in Glasgow is amazing, because all my family can come, and like it does make it that bit more special, I think. But yeah, that's kind of the next 2 years, kind of where we're looking. But like I said, and like you say, we don't really know what the Paralympics is going to look like in Glasgow, but there'll be a lot less events, I'm assuming, like based on previous Commonwealth Games. And so I might not even be swimming my 100 fly, but I'm quite excited about that. You know, I'm excited to kind of get to do other events and sort of see how far I can get with those, you know, in that season, and see what sort of, it's exciting, you know, it's been a bit different. So yeah, we'll kind of wait and see what that looks like. But no, I'm excited.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, we'll see, Faye, and certainly lots to look forward to the coming years, and lots of opportunities for you as well. So that's great. I really appreciate you coming on. I think there's been some really interesting stuff there, and best of luck for, I think you've got the British Winter Nationals next, don't you? And then hopefully kind of next year going on to World Champs as well.
Yeah, hopefully. Awesome. Yeah, if it all goes well.
Yeah. Thanks again to Faye for coming on the podcast, and thank you all for listening. To catch up with previous episodes of the Aquapod, head over to our Spotify, Apple Podcasts or YouTube channel. But until next time, thank you.